Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM for short. But hey, we're not just going to list off treatments like acupuncture or herbs. Nope, we are digging right into the theoretical foundations. I want you to think of this like putting on a brand new pair of glasses, a totally different conceptual lens. Because through this ancient philosophical framework, we're not looking at the human body as some machine made of a bunch of isolated parts. We're looking at it as a deeply interconnected living ecosystem.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start off with the holistic view of health, explore the constant movement of qi, see what it takes to achieve a harmonious balance, look at how the body battles disease and pathogens, and finally, wrap it all up with treating the root cause.
So, moving right into section 1, a holistic view of health, where we view the body as an interconnected ecosystem.
To truly wrap our heads around TCM, we have to start with this big idea: holism. Essentially, this is the interconnectedness and absolute unity of your mind, body, and spirit. They all operate together as one big, holistic physiological system. But the wild part? It doesn't stop at the edge of your skin. This system exists within and is constantly adapting to its natural and social environment. So you're not just a closed-off machine. You're a fully integrated ecosystem that's constantly interacting with your surroundings. And this brilliantly illustrates a striking difference in approach. Conventional medicine, it often zeroes in on treating specific symptoms or isolated body parts. Like you've got a headache, you take a pill for the head, right? Traditional Chinese medicine, on the other hand, considers the whole person. It's always looking for those underlying root causes and factoring in your environment. The cause of whatever's bothering you is never viewed in a vacuum. It's always seen as part of a much larger pattern of imbalance. All right, let's jump into section 2, the constant movement of qi and the dynamic forces of life. Because in this system, absolutely nothing is static.
Now, the ultimate driving force behind all of this movement, that is qi. You can think of qi as the vital energy or life force that is just constantly flowing through your body via these pathways called meridians. It's literally the foundational support for all your physiological and psychological activities. When your qi is flowing smoothly, boom, you've got health and well-being. But if that flow gets disrupted or blocked up, well, that's exactly what leads to disharmony and illness.
So this crucial movement is happening across multiple levels all the time. First, everything exists in a perpetual cycle. Constant flux: birth, growth, decay, and renewal. Then there's continuous metabolism. Your internal processes literally never stop, even when you're dead asleep. Third, we have qi's constant movement, rushing through those meridians. Fourth, we're tied to nature's rhythms, like the seasons and lunar phases. And finally, even stages of disease have movement. They progress through very specific phases. Basically, the whole shebang operates in continuous cycles. Let's actually double-click on those natural rhythms for a second, because it is fascinating to see how cyclical patterns in our external environment directly dictate our internal biology. Just the basic cycle of light and darkness that regulates our circadian rhythms, our sleep-wake cycles, and even our hormone production. And seasonal changes go even further. They impact our mood, our behavior, and they force our bodies to physiologically adapt. Seriously, your external environment is directly pulling the strings on your internal health. Which brings us to section 3, achieving a harmonious balance. This is the ultimate goal here, getting to a truly dynamic and individualized state. But before we go any further, we need to clear up a major misconception right now. Balance in Chinese medicine is definitely not some static, frozen state where nothing ever changes. Not at all. It is highly dynamic, and it's completely relative to you and your unique circumstances. What looks like perfect balance for you today might look entirely different for somebody else, or even for you, a few months from now in a different season of your life. So to sustain this highly personalized state of health, there are a few foundational forces that really have to stay in equilibrium. First, it requires a balanced interplay between yin and yang energies. Then you need an equilibrium of the 5 elements. That's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And of course, you absolutely need that smooth, uninterrupted flow of qi we were just talking about. When all these forces are harmonized together, that is when your health truly thrives.
But hey, life happens, right? Environments shift, stress creeps in. So what happens when this delicate balance is actually broken? Let's pivot from the theoretical ideal of harmony and look at the practical reality of what happens when things go wrong inside the body. That takes us to section 4, battling disease and pathogens, the internal conflict. The outcome of this internal battle depends almost entirely on your own internal energetic resources squaring off against external pathological forces. If your body's qi is strong and robust, it effectively fights off those pathogens. The illness might be super mild, and your recovery will be a breeze. But if your qi is weakened or out of whack, your body is highly susceptible. Those pathogens can literally overwhelm your energy, making the disease severe, prolonged, and making recovery a real uphill battle.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because just like everything else we've covered, disease itself follows a perpetual cycle. It starts with an initial manifestation, moves right into a development phase, and then ultimately pushes toward remission or resolution. Understanding these stages is absolutely crucial for practitioners, but honestly, it also gives us a profoundly hopeful perspective. It means illness is just a dynamic phase. It's just a state of movement that, if you give it the right support, can move right back toward resolution and health.
Moving into our final section, number 5, treating the root cause and restoring systemic harmony. Let's see how this entire philosophical lens changes the actual approach to treatment.
Here's the deal. In traditional Chinese medicine, a symptom is never the main event. Whether it's a headache, a cough, a sudden rash, these are just signals. They're merely manifestations of underlying weaknesses or dysfunctions deeper in your energetic system. Honestly, treating just the symptom is kind of like turning off a fire alarm without bothering to put out the actual fire. You always have to look deeper. So how do practitioners actually put out the fire? Well, they use these holistic treatment goals to develop incredibly personalized strategies. They're working to strengthen the body's qi, balance out those yin and yang energies, and expel any external pathogenic factors. The ultimate aim here is always to address that root cause, not just the surface level stuff. And because everyone's constitution and environment are completely different, the care literally has to be individualized to support your body's natural healing processes.
Which brings us to the end, and I want to leave you with this final, really important thought. Balance in Chinese medicine is not a one-size-fits-all concept, not at all. Your health is a completely unique, constantly shifting ecosystem. So what does this all mean for you? Well, how might you start applying this personalized root cause philosophy to your own daily life and your own dynamic well-being? Think about the rhythms you follow, the energy you cultivate, and the environment you interact with every single day. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.